من المشركين اللهم إني أمسيت منك في نعمة وعافية وستر فأتم علي نعمتك وعافيتك وسترك في الدنيا والآخرة اللهم ما أمسى بي من نعمة أو بأحد من خلقك فمنك وحدك لا شريك لك فلك الحمد ولك الشكر يا رب لك الحمد كما ينبغي لجلال وجهك وعظيم سلطانك رضينا بالله ربا وبالإسلام دينا وبمحمد صلى الله عليه وسلم نبيا ورسولا ثم أما بعد. My dear respected brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We start our halaqah tonight by praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, alhamdulillah for everything, and sending our prayers upon our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam, upon his family, his followers, his companions. May Allah Azza wa Jal make us among his sincere and truthful followers. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always keep us on the straight path of him. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always inspire us, guide us, and help us to do that which is right and stay away from that which is wrong. Ameen. So tonight, inshallah, my dear brothers and sisters, we're going to start the life of the last and final prophet of Banu Israel. The last and final prophet of Banu Israel. And with this prophet, there will be no prophet from the nation of Banu Israel, and the only prophet that will come by the will of Allah Azza wa Jal to this humanity is Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. So tonight we're going to talk about Prophet Eesa alayhi salatu wassalam. So Eesa, he is known to be As-Sayyid al-Masih. As-Sayyid al-Masih, Eesa ibn Maryam. In the Quran, he is known as Eesa. This name was only mentioned in the Quran. In the Torah, in the Bible, he was known as Al-Yasua'. In the Hebrew, instead of Sin, Yasua', it became Sheen, Yeshua'. So even the Christian Arabs, they don't know Eesa. I mean, it was not mentioned in their books, in their holy books. So the only word that people find in the Arabic version of the Bible is Yesua', and in the Arabic version of Torah is Yeshua'. And he is known also as Al-Masih. First of all, the word Eesa is not an Arabic word, so it doesn't have a real meaning in Arabic. So it's a Hebrew name. But Eesa also is known to be Al-Masih, Messiah. And he was mentioned in the Quran as Al-Masih Eesa ibn Maryam. The word Masih in Arabic comes from the verb Masaha. Masaha means to wipe, to rub, for example. Masaha tawila, wipe or rub the table. Okay? And the scholars, they mentioned several reasons why he was named Al-Masih. Some of them, they said because when he was born rubbed with specific oil. Some of them, they said because whenever he wanted to heal somebody, he used to just put his hand and wipe over, like the blind people just wipe over their eyes and they will find their sight. Masah al-Masih. Some of them, they said Masih from siyaha, which means walking, moving from a place to another. And this is something that Eesa alayhi salam kept doing in his life. He didn't stay in one place, he kept moving from a town to another, from a town to another. just reaching out to different towns, different communities, conveying to them the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is why he was known as Al-Masih. But we know that Isa alayhi salam is not the only Masih. There is Al-Masih al-Dajjal, known as the Antichrist. Al-Masih al-Dajjal. Even though Al-Masih al-Dajjal was not mentioned in the Quran, only in the Hadith, was not mentioned in the Quran by this name, Al-Masih al-Dajjal. Scholars, they said because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't want to mention him in the Quran. Others said he didn't want to mention two Masih in the Quran, because the word Masih can be given to somebody who is righteous or somebody who is evil. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has chosen to mention in the Quran Al-Masih, who is the righteous one, Isa alayhi salam. So Allah Azza wa Jal, because he mentioned the word Al-Masih for Isa, he didn't want to mention the word of Al-Masih about Al-Masih al-Dajjal, the Antichrist. And the Antichrist is known as Al-Masih also. They said because عَيْنُهُ, his eye, مَمْسُوحَ, he has only one eye. So عَيْنُهُ مَمْسُوحَ. So he was called Al-Masih, but Al-Dajjal. Dajjal means kadhab, liar. Because he will be lying on people. You know, he won't say the truth. He will say only lies, trying to attract people and tempt them and all that stuff. So this is why he's known also as Al-Masih al-Dajjal. So we're talking about Isa, Al-Masih, the Christ. And it's amazing that many of the Christians, they use the word Christ to refer to Isa alayhi salam as a divine person, the divinity of Isa alayhi salam. So we don't know why they use this, because the word Masih has nothing to do with anything divine, has nothing to do with the divinity. But they use the word Al-Masih, the Christ, to show that Isa alayhi salam, as a human being, he has the divine part of him, the divine aspect of him. And also he is known by Ibn Maryam, the son of Maryam. Isa, Al-Masih, Isa, Ibn Maryam. So this is how he is known. Again, the word Isa was not mentioned in the Torah, was not mentioned in the Hebrew Bible, and also in the New Testament. So he was known as Yeshu' or Yeshua, as is in Hebrew. He is the last prophet of Banu Israel. He was mentioned in 25 verses in the Quran. He was mentioned in 25 verses in the Quran in 11 chapters. Because in 11 surahs, sometimes in one surah, Isa alayhi salam was mentioned several times. In one surah, he was mentioned several times. The surahs where his story came in details. Number one, Al-Imran, in details. Number two, Al-Ma'idah, the end of Surah Al-Ma'idah. And number three, Surah Maryam. So these three surahs, in these three surahs, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us a little bit in details about the life of Prophet Isa alayhi salatu wassalam. We believe that he is the servant of Allah, Abdullah. He is the servant of Allah, Abdullah, wa kalimatuh, and he is the word of Allah. Wa kalimatuhu alqaha ila Maryam al-Adhra. So we know the meaning of Abdullah. He is the servant of Allah Azza wa Jal, like every other prophet. Kalimatullah, he is the word of Allah, because when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted him to be, He just said kun. Okay, Allah, and we know this, that whenever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants something to exist, Allah Azza wa Jalla says kun fayakun. Okay, just be and it will be. So he is known as Kalimatullah because he was the result of the will of Allah Azza wa Jalla. Without any introductions, without existing in the process, the same process of every single human being. So his existence was miraculous, and it was based on the kalima of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah Azza wa Jal wanted him to exist, so he said kun, and Isa was in the womb of his mother, as we are going to see. So he was Abdullah, and the word of Allah that was sent to Maryam al-Adra. Al-Adra means the Virgin Mary. She has never had any marriage or any relationship with any man. Allah Azza wa Jal said in the Quran at the end of Surah Al-Tahrim about Maryam alayhi salam, وَصَدَّقَتْ بِكَلِمَاتِ رَبِّهَا وَكُتُبِهِ, according to Hafs, كِتَابِهِ, according to Warsh, وَكَانَتْ مِنَ الْقَانِتِينَ. Here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is praising Maryam. وَصَدَّقَتْ, she believed, she trusted the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the books of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and she was كانت من القانتين, she was one of the devout people. She dedicated her life for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In the Bible, Christians claim that he is the son of Joseph the carpenter, Yusuf al-Najjar. This is what they claim. This is what they believe in. And that's why, subhanAllah, whenever we get into a conversation with Christians in the interfaith dialogue, and we talk about Jesus, peace be upon him, they are always surprised. How come the name of Joseph doesn't show in his story? And whenever we talk about Yusuf, Joseph, alayhi salam, as a prophet, they think that we're talking about Joseph the carpenter. So for them, Joseph the carpenter is a main character in the story of Yusuf alayhi salam, of Isa alayhi salam. To the point that they believe that, as they call them, the Holy Family, Maryam, Joseph, and Isa, they believe that after the birth of Isa alayhi salam, the family was not safe in the Holy Land. So that's why they took a trip down south to Cairo, what is nowadays Cairo, Egypt. At that time, there was no Cairo. And they spent some time, we don't know, few days, few weeks, few months, Allahu A'lam, hiding in a church in Cairo now that is known as the oldest church in Africa. The oldest church in Africa. And this church is situated now, is located across the street from the oldest masjid in Africa, Masjid Amr ibn al-As. I don't know if you have been to Cairo and you have visited this, but if you go to Cairo and you go to visit the oldest masjid in Africa, Masjid Amr ibn al-As, across the street there is the oldest church in Africa. If you go to the church, and you can go and visit the church, you go to the basement, so the people of the church, Allahu A'lam whether it is true or not, but they will show you the basement where the Holy Family stayed. And they will show you even the well, it's covered with thick glass. They will show you the well from where they used to get the water. So this is what they believe. This trip was not mentioned in the Quran. So we don't know whether it was true or not, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't tell us every single detail about the prophets in the Quran. So this story was mentioned, in the books of the Christians. It was not mentioned in our book, so we don't know whether it's true or not, Allahu A'lam. But this is what they believe. Coming back to Joseph, the carpenter, Yusuf al-Najjar, as a main character in the story, in the Christian books, in the story of Isa alayhi salam, and they believe that Joseph was engaged with Maryam. He was engaged with Maryam. As it was their social practice at that time, when somebody gets engaged, they take some time, the couple, to know one another better, and then based on that they will decide whether to get married or not. So they said that while they were engaged, Maryam got pregnant with Isa alayhi salam. And when Joseph noticed that, he didn't know what to do. So even in the Christian books, they say that there was no relationship between them. But when he noticed that she was pregnant, he didn't know what to do until he saw in the dream that somebody asked him to keep that engagement going on and not to reject her because she is a pure and clean woman. She was 13 years old at that time. When she got pregnant with Isa alayhi salam, she was 13 years old. So this is their story. And based on that dream, Joseph the carpenter kept that engagement relationship with Maryam alayhi salam. In the Bible of Barnabas, you know, there are different Bibles. In the Bible of Barnabas, by the way, it's the only version of the Bible where it's mentioned that there will be a prophet after Isa alayhi salam by the name of Muhammad or Ahmed. But this version of the Bible is rejected by the mainstream Christianity. It's rejected by the mainstream Christianity. They don't believe in this version of the Bible. In this version of the Bible, it says that when Maryam alayhi salam knew that she was pregnant, she started hanging out with Joseph because she was afraid from being shamed in the community. So she started hanging out with him, so people might think that, you know, they got married and they had a relationship and all that stuff. So this is what the Christian Bible or Christian Bibles, different versions, say about Maryam alayhi salam and the way she became pregnant, and also mentioning the role of Joseph the carpenter as a main character in the story of the family of Maryam and Isa alayhi salam. We don't, you know, we only believe in what is mentioned in the Quran or said by the Prophet ﷺ in the authentic hadith. So I mentioned this because most likely when you talk to Christians, you will hear this stuff, so we will be able to distinguish between what was mentioned in the Quran and what was mentioned in the books of Christianity. Who is Maryam alayhi salam? Maryam is the daughter of Imran, Bintu Imran, As-Siddiqah Al-Adra, the truthful, the virgin. And she was raised as a pure girl. She was raised as a pure, clean girl. She grew up in the temple at that time. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us about her, again, going back to the end of Surah At-Tahrim, وَمَرْيَمَ بْنَةَ عِمْرَانَ, and mention Maryam, the daughter of Imran, التي أحصنت فرجها, the one who kept herself clean, فَنَفَخْنَا فِيهِ مِنْ رُوحِنَا, so we blew, you know, in her womb from our own spirit. And basically, as we're going to see, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave the task to Jibreel alayhi salam. He is the one who did that. وَصَدَّقَتْ بِكَلِمَاتِ رَبِّهَا وَكِتَابِهِ, and she trusted the words of her Lord and the book of her Lord. وكانت من القانتين, and she was one of the devout. So her father was Imran. She was Maryam bintu Imran. Her father was Imran, and Imran was a great man and a great scholar. He was the leader of Banu Israel in his time. He was the leader of the temple and the leader of Banu Israel in his time. And his wife didn't have kids. His wife didn't have kids for her entire life. And she was always hoping to have a son. And it says that once she saw a bird feeding their young ones. A bird feeding their young ones. And when she saw that, she made a dua and she promised Allah Azza wa Jal. She made nadhr. You know, when we promise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we call it nadhr. Ya Allah, if you help me get this thing, I will do this for you. Ya Allah, if you give me a shifa from the sickness, I will fast 1 week for your sake, for example. You know, it is permissible to do this, even though some scholars, they said, you know, we shouldn't make nadhr about something that we might not be able to do, because it becomes mandatory upon us. So Allah did not make it obligation upon us, but we made it obligation upon ourselves. So anyway, Zawjat Imran, the wife of Imran, she made nadhr. She said, Ya Allah, if you give me a son, I will dedicate him 100% for the service of the temple. My son will be in the service of the temple, will be worshipping you, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The scholar said that once she said that and made that dua, she got her monthly period right away. And once she was cleaned from that period, she had a relationship with her husband, and because of that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them the baby. Now, the wife of Imran was hoping, or at least expecting what? A boy. But when she delivered, she realized that the child is what? Is a female. The child is a female. And she was kind of sorry for that. She became apologetic, because the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us about her when she said, Rabbi inni wada'tuha untha. Let me get the translation here right. Okay, let's go back to the verse before. In Surah Al Imran, verse 35. إذ قالت امرأة عمران ربي إني نذرت لك ما في بطني محررا. Remember when Imran's wife said, Oh my Lord, I have vowed that what is in my womb will be devoted exclusively for you. فَتَقَبَّلْ مِنِّي إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ السَّمِيعُ الْعَلِيمُ. So accept from me, you are certainly you are the all-hearing, all-knowing. This is the promise she did, but before the promise she made the dua, the request. If you give me a child, I will make him devout 100% for you. Now the verse that I was about to mention, فَلَمَّا وَضَعَتْهَا قَالَتْ رَبِّي إِنِّي وَضَعْتُهَا أُنْثَى. So when she delivered her, she said, Oh my Lord, I have delivered her a female child. And you can feel from the words she used that she was sorry. Ya Allah, I thought you are going to give me a son, but you gave me a girl. And that time, girls didn't serve in the temple, only boys. And families of Banu Israel, they used to be proud of sending their boys to grow up in the temple and serve in the temple, like cleaning and putting things in order and to prepare for for the worship and all that stuff. So she was kind of like embarrassed to offer a girl. Allah Azza wa Jal said, Wallahu a'lamu bima wada'at, and Allah knew better what she had delivered. She didn't have to tell Allah, Ya Allah, I have a girl. I'm so sorry. I thought I'm going to have a boy. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, and she said, وَلَيْسَ الذَّكَرُ كَالْأُنْثَى, and the male is not like the female. This is, the point where she kind of apologized to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then she said, وَإِنِّي سَمَّيْتُهَا مَرْيَمْ وَإِنِّي أُعِيذُهَا بِكَ وَذُرِّيَّتَهَا مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ الرَّجِيمِ, and I have named her Maryam, and I placed her and her progeny under your shelter against a shaitan, the rejected. The scholar said that also Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala answered her dua. The Prophet ﷺ said in hadith, every newborn child, a male or female, every newborn child, when they are born, a shaitan touch them. A shaitan touched them, except Maryam and her son. These are the only two people created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. At the time of their delivery, a shaitan did not touch them. And this is because of the dua of Maryam's mother. وَإِنِّي أُعِيذُهَا وَذُرِّيَّتَهَا, not only Maryam, but also whoever comes from Maryam. بِكَ مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ الرَّجِيمِ. So a shaitan did not touch Maryam and did not touch Isa ibn Maryam alayhi salatu wassalam. What happened after that? فَتَقَبَّلَهَا رَبُّهَا بِقَبُولٍ حَسَنٍ. So her Lord accepted her, Maryam, as a good, accepted her a good acceptance. وَأَنْبَتَهَا نَبَاتًا حَسَنًا, and made her grow a good growth. So this is the time of the birth of Maryam alayhi salam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala answered the dua of her mother, and instead of giving her a boy, he gave her a girl, but still with an apologetic tone, she promised, or she kept her promise, her nether, to dedicate her daughter Maryam to the temple. The scholar said, when Maryam was born, her father passed away shortly after that. Her father Imran passed away shortly after that. And her father was supposed, as the head of the temple, the head of Banu Israel, was supposed to be the one taking care of her in the temple. But now she doesn't have a father. Zachariah was the prophet of Banu Israel at that time. And Zachariah's wife, was the sister of Maryam's wife. So Maryam's mother and Zachariah's wife were sisters. And Zachariah was Nabi. But the mother of Maryam, after her birth, a while after that, she, took care of her, she fed her and everything. She wrapped her in a garment and she took her to the temple. And she told the worshippers in the temple, Al-Ubbad, from Al-Ibadah, Al-Ubbad, the worshippers used to be people who live in the temple, like i'tikaf every single day, every single night. They had nothing else to do except Al-Ibadah. So the mother of Maryam took the baby Maryam to the temple and she told them, she is yours. Take care of her. And I want her to grow up here in the temple and to be serving here in the temple. So the worshippers, Al-Ubbad, they started competing. Everyone wanted to get the honor, because they knew that this is the daughter of their leader who just passed away, Imran. So everyone wanted to have her. Okay? Everyone wanted to have her. And Zakaria saw himself the one who has the priority to be her guardian, kafil, her guardian. But he couldn't do it. So they agreed to cast, or do the draw. And in some versions, they said they did the draw once. In other versions, they said they did it 3 times. But every time was Zakaria, the one to be her guardian. So Zakaria became her guardian. And Zakaria was the closest person to her. From a religious perspective, he was the prophet, Nabi. From a family perspective, he was the closest to her from her family. So here's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us about that. He said, فَتَقَبَّلَهَا رَبُّهَا بِقَبُولٍ حَسَنٍ وَأَنْبَتَهَا نَبَاتًا حَسَنًا وَكَفَّلَهَا زَكَرِيَّا. كَفَّلَهَا in Hafs, in Warsh, كَفَّلَهَا Zakaria. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made Zakaria her guardian. كلما دخل عليها زكريا المحراب وجد عندها قوما. Whenever Zakaria وجد عندها رزقا. Whenever Zakaria visited her at the place of worship, al-mihrab, the sanctuary, where she was. By the way, Zakaria, when he became her guardian, he dedicated a place in the temple for her, like a room. Only Maryam could have access to that room. No one else could have access except himself as her guardian. Meaning that she didn't have contact with the people. The only time she used to get out of that room is when to clean up the temple. When to clean up the temple. The only man who had the right to enter that room was Zakaria alayhi salatu wassalam. So every time Zakaria visited her at her place of worship, he found food with her. Not only food, but in the summer, he used to find with her the food of the winter. And food here means mainly fruits and vegetables. In the winter, he used to find with her the food of the summer. And he asked her, Maryam, from where did you have this? She said, it is from Allah. Surely Allah gives whom He wills without measure. قالت هو من عند الله إن الله يرزق من يشاء بغير حساب. As we have mentioned when we talked about Zakaria, at that point Zakaria realized that this is a miracle. This is mu'jiza, a miracle. Because no one is bringing her the food. No human being. This food is provided by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through al-malaika, through the angels. This is a miracle. At that point, he said, since this miracle is happening right now with Maryam, maybe this miracle will be happening with me. Allah Azza wa Jalla said, هُنَالِكَ, thereupon, دَعَى زَكَرِيَّا رَبَّهُ, Zakaria prayed to his Lord. قَالَ رَبِّ هَبْ لِي مِن لَّدُنْكَ ذُرِّيَّةً طَيِّبَةً إِنَّكَ سَمِيعُ الدُّعَاءِ. Thereupon Zakaria prayed to his Lord. He said, O my Lord, grant me from your own power a goodly progeny. Verily you are the one who listens to the prayer. And we know that immediately Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent to him al-malaika to give him the good news that he will have his son by the name of Yahya alayhi salam. By the name of Yahya alayhi salatu wassalam. So anyway, the story goes on about Zakaria that we have already mentioned until the verse 42 in Surah Al-Imran, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala goes back to Maryam alayhi salam. So Maryam, when she was in the temple, when she was in al-mihrab, in her place of worship, the angels, al-malaika, kept visiting her. Al-malaika kept visiting her. So basically, Maryam was not alone. She was always in the company of al-malaika. Doing what? Just talking to her, giving her the good news, telling her about her status with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Here's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us about that. وَإِذْ قَالَتِ الْمَلَائِكَةُ يَا مَرْيَمُ إِنَّ اللَّهَ اصْطَفَاكِ وَطَهَّرَكِ وَاصْطَفَاكِ عَلَى نِسَاءِ الْعَالَمِينَ. And when the angels said, O Maryam, Allah has chosen you and purified you and chosen you over the women of all the worlds. This is the type of the good news al-malaika kept telling her all the time. Something else. يا مريم اقنتي لربك واسجدي واركعي مع الراكعين. O Maryam, stand in devotion to your Lord and prostrate yourself in bow down, ruku', with those who bow, مع الراكعين. So this is also what al-malaika were telling Maryam, not only to give her the good news about her status with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has chosen her amongst all the women of the world, but also al-malaika were inspiring her to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through qiyam, through ruku', through sujood. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said after that, ذَلِكَ مِنْ أَنْبَاءِ الْغَيْبِ نُوحِيهِ إِلَيْكَ. This is a part of the news of the unseen, al-ghayb, the unseen, we reveal to you, O Prophet. Here Allah Azza wa Jal is addressing Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, just telling him that you were not aware of this. People are not aware of what happened at that time. So we are telling you about this news of the unseen. For the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that was ghayb. For Maryam, it was not ghayb, it was reality. But for the Prophet ﷺ, it was ghayb. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was telling him. And then Allah Azza wa Jal goes back to that moment when the mother of Maryam brought her child and gave it to the worshippers of the temple. What happened after that? Allah Azza wa Jal said, وَمَا كُنْتَ لَدَيْهِمْ إِذْ يُلْقُونَ أَقْلَامَهُمْ أَيُّهُمْ يَكْفُلُ مَرْيَمْ وَمَا كُنْتَ لَدَيْهِمْ إِذْ يَخْتَصِمُونَ. You were not, and he is asking Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, addressing Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You were not with them, O Muhammad, when they were casting their pens to decide who from among them should be the guardian of Maryam, nor were you with them when they were competing. Allah Azza wa Jalla is telling us what happened. That when they were casting their pens, which means doing this draw to find out who is going to be the guardian of Maryam. يَخْتَصِمُونَ, competing with one another. Everyone wanted to get that privilege, that honor. إِذْ قَالَتِ الْمَلَائِكَةُ يَا مَرْيَمُ إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُبَشِّرُكِ بِكَلِمَةٍ مِّنْهِ. And remember the time when the angel said, O Maryam, Allah gives you a good news of a word from Him, whose name is the Messiah, Eesa, the son of Maryam. Before getting to this, let's go back a little bit and find out that Zakaria, or remind ourselves that Zakaria was the one who got the honor to be the guardian of Maryam alayhi salatu wassalam. So the angels started coming to her and telling her the good news and inspiring her to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala more and more and more, until the day came when Maryam alayhi salam received a very special news from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through the angels, through al-malaika. They say that when Maryam was 13 years old, when she was at that age, she went out of the temple and she went out of the town towards the eastern side in order to have some fresh air, to have a walk, outside the city. And she was by herself. A girl of 13 years old walking by herself. And all of a sudden, she saw a young man, a handsome young man. And he was approaching her. And Maryam had no idea who was that handsome young man. But we know that she got scared. She got scared. She was very uncomfortable. She was by herself. And she was afraid that that person might attack her. So she started showing her discomfort. And she started going back and forth. And also verbally expressing her discomfort at that time. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us in the Quran, وَاذْكُرْ فِي الْكِتَابِ مَرْيَمَ. And remember and mention in the book about Maryam. إِذِ انْتَبَذَتْ مِنْ أَهْلِهَا مَكَانًا شَرْقِيًّا. She left her family, she left her community, her town, walking towards the east, Sharqiyya, Sharq, the east of Jerusalem. فَاتَّخَذَتْ مِنْ دُونِهِمْ حِجَابًا. Here, hijab means she walked far away to the point that she couldn't see the city. She couldn't see the people. She was in the valley, in the hill, just by herself. Hijab here doesn't mean like a curtain between her and her family. It means she was far away from them. Nobody could see her over there, and she could not see anyone in the town. فانتبذت من أهلها مكانا شرقيا فاتخذت من دونهم حجابا. When she was alone by herself, no one could see her, and she couldn't see anyone. أرسلنا إليها روحنا. We sent to her our spirit. Who is the Ruh here? Jibreel alayhi salam. Ar-Ruh is one of the names of Jibreel alayhi salam. فأرسلنا إليها روحنا. We sent to her our spirit, Jibreel. فَتَمَثَّلَ لَهَا بَشَرًا سَوِيًّا. He went to her, he appeared to her, he showed up to her as a handsome man. Sawiyya means beautiful, handsome. Basharan, a human. Basharan Sawiyya, a handsome young man. She expressed her fear, her discomfort by saying, قالت إني أعوذ بالرحمن منك إن كنت تقيا. I seek refuge to the most merciful from you, unless you are a righteous, you are taqi. She was afraid that he was not taqi. She was afraid that he is a human being who has an ill intention, a wrong intention. Immediately, when Jibreel, in the form of that handsome young man, noticed that she got afraid, she was scared, he told her immediately, قال إنما أنا رسول ربك لأهب لك غلاما زكيا. He told her, I am only a messenger from your Lord. I am only a messenger from your Lord to give you, to offer to you, ghulam, a boy, zakiya, pure. Zakiya from zakat, something pure, clean. She never expected this. That this gentleman was Jibreel himself. Came in this form of a young, handsome young man, and he told her exactly his task. That he is here to offer to her from her Lord a pure young boy. In other verses, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَإِذْ قَالَتِ الْمَلَائِكَةُ يَا مَرْيَمْ. And the angels, they said, O Maryam, إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُبَشِّرُكِ بِكَلِمَةٍ مِّنْهِ. Allah gives you the good news that He will give you His word. بِكَلِمَةٍ مِّنْهِ. And al-kalima, as we have explained at the beginning, was kun fayakun, which means she will be pregnant without any introductions. She will be pregnant because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted that person to exist. Al-kalima is kun, be. And that person will be. Inna Allah yubashiruki. Allah gives you the good news of His word. Bikalimatin minh. Ismuhu, His name. Al-Masihu Isa ibn Maryam. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave the name to the boy before he was in the womb of his mother, Isa ibn Maryam. And this reminds us about Yahya, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who gave the name of Yahya before he was in the womb of his mother. So Allah Azza wa Jal gave him the name and the nickname Al-Masih, Isa ibn Maryam, wajihan fi dunya. Wajih, it's an Arabic word taken from al-wajaha. Al-wajaha is the nobility. Wajih, nobleman, leader, somebody with high status. Wajihan fi dunya wal akhirah. He will be noble in this life, worldly life, dunya, and he will be noble in al-akhirah. Wa min al-muqarrabin, which means one of the closest people to Allah. Muqarrab from qurb, closeness. You say about somebody who is qareeb, he is close to me, qareeb. وَيُكَلِّمْ, more details. This is, at the time where she was not pregnant yet. Allah Azza wa Jal is saying more details about this boy. وَيُكَلِّمُ النَّاسَ فِي الْمَهْدِ. And he will speak to people while in cradle. Mahd, the cradle. Which means Allah, through al-malaika, already told her that your child will be speaking, I would say few hours or few days after his birth. وَيُكَلِّمُ النَّاسَ فِي الْمَهْدِ وَكَهْلًا. Kahl, when he grow up, when he will be a man. And then what? وَمِنَ الصَّالِحِينَ. And he will be one of the righteous people. So all these details. Already, Maryam got all these details about her son that was not born yet. Still, she was not comfortable 100%. Not because she was afraid, she was not comfortable from the side of Allah Azza wa Jal. No, she was not comfortable from the side of her people. She knew that she is going to have a hard time with her people because of this baby. The scholar said that Jibreel came in that form of a human, a handsome human, to Maryam because Allah Azza wa Jal didn't want to scare her. Imagine if he sent to her Jibreel in his form of Malak, this huge body with huge wings covering the entire sky. What will happen to that 13 years old girl, Miskina? So that's why he sent to her this young man, handsome young man. After she felt comfortable with him, with that Malak, with Jibreel, she was amazed and asked when he told her that this is my task, I'm here to offer you this young boy. She said, قالت أَنَّا يَكُونُ لِي غُلَامٌ وَلَمْ يَمْسَسْنِي بَشَرٌ وَلَمْ أَكُ بَغِيًّا. How come I will have a child since no man touched me and I was not a bad woman? لَمْ أَكُ بَغِيًّا, I was not a bad woman. How come this is going to happen? He answered her immediately. قَالَ كَذَلِكَ قَالَ رَبُّكِ هُوَ عَلَيَّ هَيِّنٌ. This is the destiny of your Lord. This is what your Lord, the will of your Lord, this is what He decided to do. And this is easy, hayyin, easy for me. وَلِنَجْعَلَهُ آيَةً. And we will make him a sign a sign of Allah's greatness, a miracle. آية للناس ورحمة, and a mercy from our own to the people. وكان أمرا مقضيا, which means there is no objection, there is no question. We're not going to argue about this matter. This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted. It's gonna be. That's it. So Jibreel alayhi salam, he finalized the entire argument, the entire conversation with her. This is what your Lord decided. So she was 13 years old. She became pregnant. For how long was her pregnancy? Most of the scholars, they said it was 8 or 9 months, as every woman. Some scholars, they said it was 1 hour. Some other scholars, they said few hours, between 6 to 9 hours. Why? Because they said she became pregnant immediately. She delivered after 1 hour or few hours, took the baby. But the scholars said that, this argument has no foundation. Has no foundation. But this is the understanding of some mufassirin. This is their understanding that she didn't go back to the town and waited for a few months. She delivered right away. And this is far away from being accepted, because there is no foundation for it in the Quran or in the Sunnah. So they said, since Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't tell us exactly how much, let's believe that it was a normal time of pregnancy. Some of them, they said 8 months or 9 months. So Jibreel alayhi salam, what he did, how she came pregnant, Jibreel alayhi salam blew with his own mouth in the pocket of her clothes. Some scholars, they said he blew in her mouth. And it was rejected by the majority of the scholars. Doesn't make any sense. So they said he blew in the pocket of her clothes, and that nafkha, the blow, the air, went straight to the womb of Maryam. And this is where she became pregnant. This is where the time, the exact moment where she became a pregnant woman. And then after that, she went back to Al-Mihrab, she went back to the temple. She continued her work, her service, her ibadah, whatever she was doing in the temple. And the people didn't notice, because Maryam usually doesn't go out anyway. It seems that this journey that she took out of the town, it seems that it was the only journey that she took in her entire life. She never went out of town until that journey. And because this is the work of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in people's lives, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was the one who took her out of, inspired her, through al-wahy, to go out of town in order to meet Jibreel and, happen whatever happened. It seems that she didn't go out of town before that, and she didn't go out of town after that. So she stayed in the temple all the time. That's why people did not see her pregnant after that. So this is what we have tonight. We'll stop here, inshallah. And next week we will continue with what happened exactly when she went back to the temple, and then the time of the delivery came, and what she did and all that stuff. We will continue with all these details next Monday, inshallah. Until then, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always to increase our knowledge, to help us understanding the significance of the lives of the prophets, and to make these prophets and these messengers our role model, our example, so we follow them. And we follow the righteous people, not only the prophets, but the righteous people who were around them. Like Maryam alayhi salam was not a prophet, but she was surrounding one of the people around the prophet. Many people that we talk about through the lives of the prophets, they were not prophets, but they were righteous people. They were some of the disciples of the prophets, the companions of the prophets. So we learn from them as well about the way they supported, they sacrificed their lives in order to support their prophets and their messengers. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم.